Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Fan Films. This is the 4th episode of this series, and once again, he doesn't need another introduction, but of course it's Will Bunce. How you doing, Will?
Hi Adam, I'm good. No need for an introduction now. We're four episodes in, time flies, and with lockdown being eased, I think life is getting a bit more manageable.
Yeah, and you just heard in the background a featured rumble of a truck by his road. That's because, of course, he's got the window open. We're recording this, I believe, on the hottest day of the year already. It is sweltering. I think it's 28 degrees at the moment, as we're recording this on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, it's certainly stifling up here. So yeah,
Yeah, man.
but
Go for it. Have you got any news this week?
well, hot weather's got me out a bit more. I've been exercising outside, which is nice. I've been running a lot more outside. I've been doing like my work outside. Basically, I've been outside all day, every day, really. So it's got me relocating outside. So 24 hours of the day, which is nice. Nice change from the kind of the cooler weather last week.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good, bro. I've been actually playing tennis with my girlfriend because the courts are nearby are now reopened because, of course, the lockdown's been eased just that slight bit. And from what what we were talking about earlier before we started this podcast, which, it's going to happen. All these parties and social distancing ain't going to happen. I think we're going to be in lockdown. I'm going to call it next 4 weeks. We'll be back in lockdown. What do you think, Will?
I don't even know what to expect. People are just being so stupid now. I think people are just being like pricks about the whole social distancing thing, and
Yo.
We'll have to remember to take this off. Not suitable for children, but hey.
Well, every time we upload this, it always comes up with explicit. And no matter how many times I try to censor it, so fuck that. I am keeping it explicit, so you can swear all you like. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably, my opinion, it's just the failure of democracy. Even though, of course, people are allowed the freedom to do whatever they want. Otherwise, then it becomes a dictatorship. Yeah, you don't want that at all. But it's just this is the problem. People are going to go out their way and then they're going to get themselves in trouble. And then the government are going to go, oh yeah, let's just lock it down again. But who knows what's going to happen? Who really knows?
Exactly.
I've also managed to pull my muscle. So I've been indoors pretty much, past 5 days. Yeah, horrible. Go pull your muscle. That was with my water polo squad. So yeah, I haven't been doing much. Just chilling to myself, really. But we're not going to be chilling today. Oh, no. If you're listening in, we are going to be reviewing another 2 Star Wars fan films. And today we have picked 2 very unique films, both on the similar vibes, which is going off the theme of Stormtroopers. So we both picked 2, each picked a title that is in relation to a Stormtrooper story, because we don't usually get these many stories around, don't we, Will?
No, it's not. It's not a very common thing, and I think because of that, it's interesting to see and kind of add up the pros and cons of it, and see what we think of it. Because it's a once kind of thing. The first time I'm ever reviewing a Stormtrooper film, and I think it's going to be interesting, and just to see what happens, really, and the opinions that we come out with.
Yeah. What's your favourite Stormtrooper moment? Just like if you're going back to like Stormtrooper films, do you have a favourite Stormtrooper moment?
What, in Star Wars in particular, the official films?
Anything. So Clone Wars, even in these short films, but that'll be spoiling it.
I mean, we're going to get onto that in a minute. So I think the best kind of Stormtrooper moment for me is when Obi-Wan uses the Jedi mind trick on him in episode 4, because obviously it's the first time that you ever see that moment. It is quite funny because you get to see how stupid Stormtroopers actually are.
Yeah. I must say that is a really good scene, and I think even the running joke is like, I mean, for me, my favourite moment is in Mandalorian that recently came out in the UK and the US. is, of course, that last episode between the two Stormtroopers for a good 5 minutes, just criticizing how bad Stormtroopers are. I mean, of course, the famous quote is like, "Oh, Imperial troopers would have an aim so precise to kill these Jawas in episode 4," and then throughout we just see Stormtroopers. They just can't hit a single can, and they showed that in the Mandalorian, which is it's fantastic. But Will, you still need to watch the end of Mandalorian. When you see those episodes, you need to watch them. However you do.
I think to be fair, it's disgraceful that a proper Star Wars fan like myself who hasn't seen the Mandalorian is quite disgraceful. I think, to be honest, and that's
it. It is. You need to rip that Star Wars badge off, of the Star Wars nerdy badge off. And
I think I'm kind of criticising myself there, but it's all good.
Okay, so let's kick off with one of these two films. I don't know who picked last time. Was it you, Will?
I did pick last time. I'll hand it over to you this time, I reckon, because it's only fair.
Okay. Since it's quite fresh in my mind, let's go to the film I picked, which was TK436, a Stormtrooper story. This one, let's give it the description. So it is about a gritty tale of an Imperial Stormtrooper who is forced to confront his past in the heat of the battle. It's directed by Sam Goa Edwards, and I think that's his brother, Sam Tubia Edwards. They both got Edwards, and it was both directed and written by them. So 2 directors, 2 writers, not too bad. But then they also did the cinematography, and they did the film editing, and they did the special effects, and they did the visual effects, and they did they done basically everything effects and editing wise. There's Roshan Smith, who did the photography, so I'm guessing that's behind the scenes. There's quite a few behind the scenes moments, and Andrew Swarbrick, who done the music. There's credited cast. You got the narrator by Kenneth Bordshollen, who weirdly isn't the actual main actor. Then it's just in a confusing order. This is why I'm doing it really slow, because I'm trying to get it right. Adult TK436, so they didn't even give him a proper name, was played by Andrew Pagli. Oh, I'm going to say it wrong, aren't I? I'm going to call him Andrew. It's a guy called Andrew. I'll leave the links down below. Then Adult Nisa, who is a rebel trooper. Well, spoilers ahead anyway. Denise Reed. And then you got a young TK, and then a young Nisa, and then a Imperial recruiter. So that's the guy on the screen, which is Kevin Swan. So it's quite a small cast, and this film, it won. If I just get my facts right, it won an award. I think it was Best Direction. Yeah, it actually won the Star Wars Fan Film Awards in 2016 in the Filmmaker Select winner. And it's got over 1.5 million hits on YouTube, and it's been out for 4 years. So yeah, it's actually done pretty well, and it's obviously, of course, it's been released in 4K, which is amazing for my eyes. Especially, I love 4K. I just love 4K films. It's going to be the next gen of how films are going to be made. But Will, go and kick us off. I've done a very long description. What's your say on this?
I mean, before I get to my opinion, I can cover the fun facts if you want to.
If you really want to, go for it.
I don't mind, to be fair. So, these do tie well in with some positives, actually, we've got down in our notes. But firstly, I think all the Stormtrooper costumes apparently were made using EVA foam, athletic mats, and certain patterns as well. The costumes were purposely designed to look bulky and damaged in order to give the Stormtroopers a more intimidating appearance. the short film, it took 7 months to complete, apparently, which compared to other films, I believe, is actually a good, actually quite a considerable amount less time than the other ones. And
Yeah.
I think it was anyway. And this fan film has a beta. There's a beta model helmet which complete with function cheek filters, apparently, and it has advanced HUD capabilities. So that's
I think that's all visual effects kind of
well,
things.
it sounds
Yeah.
it sounds quite technical in all of it. So
Yeah, it's quite interesting facts in terms of the costume, because it's an interesting choice, and it's weird because you obviously watch the film, and then once you've watched it, you go and scroll down the description and you see those facts and you're just like, oh, that kind of makes sense. So they try to make it their own thing. But I think the second point is the second fact is the one that kind of sticks out to me. The way they purposely made their the costumes bulky and damaged in order to give them an intimidating appearance. So do you think that kind of worked for this film?
I think it did. To be fair, I certainly felt that it was effective. Um, in the intimidation element, I thought that was successful. Personally, you kind of felt quite overwhelmed and definitely intimidated. It was very successful in that, and I don't really know what to say, to be fair, but I can't fault it, to be fair. Like it achieved what it was there to do. Um, like to tie the audience in with the movie, and definitely to make you feel what the directors intend you to feel. So I think 100% it was pretty much successful for me, and I can't fault it.
I do remember though, even first watching this, you're kind of like, why are the costumes so shit? Like I
Yeah.
don't like, because I know you like, and especially me, I like the official costumes to be used.
Mm.
So do you think your opinion has changed?
Yeah, I think by reading the fun facts, it has shifted it a little bit more, because the fact that it says they're designed to be intimidating, it's more. I kind of get more of a feel from it, because when you sometimes you watch something once, it's a lot to process mentally. So I think time to kind of reflect on it and kind of take everything in just bit by bit is really important, and I think that allowed me to shift my opinion. And although I must admit the costumes, even looking back now, are pretty shit in my opinion, I do think that um, they do have an element of intimidation there, which at first I thought, are they really meant to be doing that? But then when you really do explore further in depth into kind of more the not the creator, sorry, the director's plan, if you like, and it's um, really quite a game changer, I think, now for the overall film. My overall opinion. Don't know about you.
Yeah, it's the director's vision. It's the director's and the screenwriter's choice, and as
Mm.
well as their costume department. Because this film for me, if we were really going to dig into it, apart from the costumes, it's a very unique film because it's a side that we haven't really seen. Because
Mm.
they did it a different approach to make it like a war type movie, and it's following this soldier in a post-traumatic stress disorder way, or PTSD type of way. So the editing is very PTSD like. It's very hard to describe. It's very quick, it's very cutty, and the sound is switching from left to right.
Mm.
And I think that was a really nice edit, like a nice way of doing it. And I think this is why it won probably best direction and best Star Wars fan film, because of the way it was done. I mean, for 2016, I think that's brilliant. I mean, maybe they were heavily inspired by Rogue One, or maybe it was before Rogue One came out.
Mm.
But it's just a nice way of looking at it. You don't get many Star Wars films or many perspectives to look in it in this way, like it's almost edited like it was Dunkirk. Have you ever seen Dunkirk?
Oh yeah, no, I've seen that, and I agree with what you're saying there. No, I think it reflects Dunkirk as the example really well.
It's a very jolty movie.
Mm,
I'd say a thriller movie. It does kind of like, draw you into the action, which I just loved. I mean, I rewatched it and I actually really enjoyed watching it another time because then you start to understand what was happening.
mm.
Um,
I think
what have you?
sorry, go on.
No, go for it. Go
Oh,
for it.
cheers. I think on that, I think just to me, not to cut you off or anything, but please go back if you didn't finish after.
That's all right.
But I felt
That's all right.
that ties in quite well with the pace of the film. I don't know if you agree with that. No, I just felt the pacing for me was very slow, but for me that felt like a shame, and it just led to a very limited character development, if you like. But you could counter that by you could kind of mention how the directors actually intend to do that, perhaps purposely. So you didn't actually get a character development. Instead, you kind of just accepted the fact he's a stormtrooper. But then the whole idea of it's this one guy who they're trying to develop the character of. So, although I have contradicted a point there, I just feel like if they did intend, their intentions for me with the whole character development thing were very limited. They didn't give us a lot of scope, if that makes sense. So I just found it was more lack of character development was caused by the slow movement, which for me just didn't lead me to appreciate the film as much as I would have liked, if that makes sense.
See, like I thought the pacing was fine. Watching it again a second time, I thought the pacing was fine for me. I really enjoyed the pacing of the movie. I must agree. I would agree. The character development was pretty poor. I mean, it was pretty obvious, kind of watching it through. But like the relationship between them two, between 436 and Nissa, were very powerful and effective. Especially like that ending sequence, when she is destroyed on that tower by the sniper, and then hit the big reveal of like when he takes off his stormtrooper mask as she's pointing a gun at him,
Yeah.
and then revealing especially like the necklace, for example, that she gave to him, and then he then revealed it in that last sequence, and then she remembered who he was, and then laying there, and then she unfortunately dies, if I remember, at the end of the film. Which is very powerful. I mean, yes, I think I have to agree. Yeah, if they just developed that little bit more between them, and instead of just like breaking away back to the action, they could have just said like a bit more backstory. I think that's what we need. That's what we need to then make this a hey, this is a top 10 film to watch, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, another positive, I thought the music was composed very well, and the sound editing was brilliant. It was very well matched to the tone of a warlike feel for the movie, and I think that's another thing that drove the audiences to kind of watch more. Is like, oh, the music's building up. What's going to happen? So I don't know if you wanted to add on that.
Not really, to be fair. I mean, yeah, no, I think that's a definite positive for me as well. I mean, I didn't have it down because, like you said, you yeah, the wartime feel is very effective in definitely engaging the audience, which of course is what it intends to do again. Back to my first point, but yeah, I haven't got any complaints about it personally. I think that the quality overall, like you said, was really good. It suited the theme of the film very well. So the wartime theme in the middle of that battle, it built for me very got you on edge, quite suspense heavy, which is a perfect inclusion, if you like, in this kind of theme of the film. I just found it was a very effective thing, as I said, and well placed. I
Fair
can't
enough.
fault it.
This is another recurring thing. What about VFX for you? What did you think of the visual effects in this film, say compared to others, like
Yeah.
in general? What do you think about them?
So for me, I just felt it was very overwhelming. That's just my general opinion. Again, it could be down to personal preference and what you don't and do like. But for me, one shot would just have too many multiple colours in. It was too much to take in, and it was more. For me, it took me longer not to realise what was going on, but it took me longer to kind of compute mentally. Oh, what should my attention be focused on? This bit, this bit, this bit, this bit, and I just felt when it all came at me at once, it was more. It felt like I was being bombarded by like a storm or a natural disaster, like a hurricane or something like that, or like a typhoon that's rushing everything into you, or like a tsunami. You see what I mean? And it's kind of more. It felt more like the film was kind of throwing more than I could handle, if that makes sense. Because my like with films is. I don't like it simple. I like a good mystery and a good thing. You've got to try and figure out what's going on. But I kind of more like it where it's straightforward and it's not kind of, oh, look, we've got this, and this on one screen. And it's kind of more, you've got a clear picture of what the directors intend for you to take in and capture your attention with. And I just thought it did do this very well with the VFX personally.
I think that's because they used a lot of green screen.
Yes.
I don't think any of the sets, apart from when the handing of the necklace scene.
Yes.
I think that's the only real area, like the actual real location they used. You can there's two scenes that really stick out like a sore thumb. Is when the Imperial recruiter is talking on that green screen.
Yes.
That blue screen. It just didn't look right. It didn't fit well. It would have been better if there was just a little sign saying recruiting now, all imperial staff wanted, or Storm. That would have been better, just to have a staff, not just a little screen with a little man talking through an obvious green screen. Like I don't know. It's picky, but then at the same time, there's not a lot you can do if the visual effects aren't great.
Yeah.
And the second scene, when he's on the desert and I think they're trying to find where the rebel base is. And he's like walking out and you could just tell like he's only got a couple 100 meters and then he's going to hit a back wall,
it's like you said, it's pretty obvious. And I do think the green screen was just used way too much. And I think as well, when you're saying with the Imperial recruitment officer, how it's clear he's just speaking through it, it's like, I think a sign, as basic as it sounds, would have been better placed for me. And I just feel like it just lowered the more kind of not effectiveness, kind of more engagement into the film. I would have personally liked a good balance between that and the natural world of filming. So, for example, like we reviewed Odyssey last time. If you guys haven't seen that, do go check that out. It's definitely worth your time. But I felt Odyssey although it had a lot of natural world, there was a nice balance between that and visual effects. And I just felt Bucketheads just didn't really do that. Sorry, the TK.
TK. I was going to say.
Sorry, wrong film. That's on to next. But I just don't think he did it that well, to be honest.
That's fine. I mean, it was just a hit and miss, isn't it? I mean, I thought the TIE fighters looked really nice. AT-ATs as well. It's just, there was just certain elements that it's just, the more VFX you use, the more times you kind of go, well, they could have done this. They could have done this a bit more real. They could have used a real location, but it just depends on their budget. I think it was a very cheap film to make, and in a way, if they make it as cheap as possible and they get the hits they need, I think that's a massive success in a way.
Yeah,
In my opinion.
yeah.
Despite all the flaws, but do you have any other negatives that stick out to you?
Um, I felt the flashback in particular appeared too many times of him with his girlfriend. Although it's very powerful, don't get me wrong, it does it successfully and it allows you to connect with him, which was one of the positives I did get down. I just felt a different flashback would have been a better inclusion. Maybe of him training, maybe to be a stormtrooper when he maybe first signed up, or him as a child, perhaps. These are just hypothetical ideas, of course, but it would have been it would have been nice to have something more, not personal necessarily, but something that explored him as a character and not just his relationship with his girlfriend, because obviously that is important because it shows his personal attributes. Of course, he's caring, loving, etc., etc. But I just felt a more visual exploration would have been a better choice.
Yeah, and I couldn't phrase that any better because it doesn't have to be dialogue, and it like you said, it can be visually seen. Like maybe there could have been an argument broke out. That's the reason why he went to join the Stormtrooper army. I don't know. It just felt a bit flat. That kind of backstory element, like we said earlier, it didn't really stand out as much as it could have been. I mean, this film is a lot of could ifs and not like but if it's like this could have been better if it's just one of those films where you just kind of go, oh come on, we just want a little bit more, but it wasn't completely awful. I think so. I'm not gonna write this off too much. I thought I was, but then watching it again, you kind of change your opinion. So I'm gonna leave the link of the film down below, so if you just scroll down you can watch that film. Now we move on to our second one, I think, which is called Bucketheads. Very weird title. Very weird title. It is the description is a squad of stormtroopers are transporting to a POW, prisoner of war camp, with valuable information from Yavin 4. But getting off the planet will test their mettle. Oh, interesting. Writers and directors are Marco Bossow and Andy Brown. Music was done by Samuel Kim. Cinematography and editing was also done by Marco. Production design by Anthony Vinny. Costume design by Terry Chi. Cast features Troy Muddle as TK423, so it's another TK, so that's a stormtrooper. Lee Shorten, who is the captured rebel general. Then you have I'm trying to figure out who's next important. Oh my god, one of them looks like Shia LaBeouf. Have you seen this photo?
I got a small picture up here. No, I see what you mean. Actually, yeah.
He looks like Shia LaBeouf's double. I'm not even joking.
You could pass brilliantly with that, couldn't he? For his double, Shia double. I think he could. He could. I've just got the picture bigger. I've just got Shia LaBeouf's picture up. Yeah. Oh,
he actually does.
Jeez, yeah. He actually could. Wow.
We have found Shia LaBeouf's double. Please listen in to talk about it. But he plays the rebel sniper. We'll get onto his part as well. We'll get onto all of it, to be fair. So if I kick off, in terms of for this film, I really enjoyed it. It's another Stormtrooper film, of course, predominantly about the backstory of Stormtroopers. I really enjoyed it, apart from the ending. I must say, I thought they did it so well, and they kind of killed it and misjudged it at the end. It was a bit too obvious and not very well thought out. it's just really good. I mean, one thing that's really sticks out, it has to be the visual effects right from the get-go. Man, it was incredible watching it. And when you see it as well in the behind the scenes, how they did it, fantastic. They did it the classic Star Wars way, where they got a little toy figure of a little shuttle, put it on the green screen, then enlarged it, and did their magical stuff like the VFX teams go. So
that's really creative. Like, that's really original.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. What do you think, Will? Like, is any visual effects moments that stood out for you as a positive?
I've just gone through my notes. I mean, the general VFX in general, I just found the breakdown of it, how you were saying in the additional clips provided, I thought that was professional, very well included, which gave the project quite a good air of, you could say, respectability, if you like, because you come to really appreciate the type of commitment that the staff behind the projects put into it. I thought that was really good. I haven't got any particular VFX in general. I mean, the shuttle for me, yes, was very good. Like when it crashed, when you saw that visual crash bit, I thought that was the highlight for me, as you said. But apart from that, none of it really stood out as exceptional, like above all else. All of it was of really high quality. But apart from the shuttle bit, nothing was of that high standard and originality. So that was all top notch for me, really.
Yeah. So what would you say in this film stood out the most? Compared to others, what do you think stands out to make this a really good film?
I think the different perspective of the Stormtroopers used was very, very unique, and I thought it really captivated me personally. I've got down in my notes here the fact that they maybe aren't the bad guys as such, and the fact the rebels are here portrayed as more like terrorists, if you like, than freedom fighters who are not fighting to free the galaxy, more to divide it, if you like. And for me, it really made me question my view of who is in the right and who is in the wrong, because I felt here the Stormtroopers were the ones being victimized and targeted by the rebellion, and you kind of think, are the rebels really the good ones, or is the Empire's cause actually the better one, instead of the rebel so-called, freedom movement, if that makes sense? I don't know what your views are on that.
Yeah, I actually like that kind of switch, to kind of have a bit of sympathy for the Stormtroopers, because as you get to know these characters, as they're walking to take the prisoner, you kind of get to know them a bit more. I mean, I think the dialogue is a little bit cliche and a bit like it's not really moving the story forward, and you're not really developing a character. But I thought it was some moments where you go, oh, actually, who is actually the real bad guy here? Is it really the rebels, or is it the Stormtroopers? You don't know, because the Stormtroopers just do their job, and the rebels are trying to get their freedom back. But like you said, almost like they're terrorists. The rebels, it's almost like they are suppressed by a dictatorship, well, it is a dictatorship. It's not a democracy. Maybe that's why they're fighting in it.
Exactly.
I think if we're going along the notes of story, I think it was great the way they built the tension up to that final the final fight, like, which happened in the middle of the film for some reason. You see the sniper played by Shia LaBeouf. Who he's lining up his shot, and it's like anticipation. It's like, when's that first shot gonna come in? Then you see another rebel. There's great cinematography when we're walking through the forest, and then the Stormtrooper's last line was like, I wonder we go watch our backs, and then we see the feet of a rebel soldier, and we go up to see a rebel spy saying, enemy spotted, blah blah blah. I thought the cinematography matched the tension to that final fight sequence. I just loved it.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really good, and the level of suspense as well. Like you were saying, it matched the film really well, and the kind of whole idea the director was trying to get across. And I thought the suspense was really good as well, because it kept you, as the audience, engaged and on the edge of your seat, really. Wanting to know what happens next, curious, and just an overall, the cinematography with that was exceptional. I've got nothing negative to hold to it. It's really good.
And a really good location as well to go through the forest, and it kind
of, brilliant.
It rematched like what Yavin 4 would look like. I'm not sure. I think it is quite habitable planet. If they were trying to remake that, and they did play around with the color to make it look like it was kind of this vast jungle. It actually reminded me a bit like Endor, where the Ewoks were. I was thinking, is this Endor, or where is this?
Yeah,
it was just really nice to watch. So it's just brilliant. Any other positives you want to pick up?
I thought it was nice, the change of the fact the Empire are on the defensive in this one, and instead, they're the ones being hunted, but by the rebels instead of vice versa, which was nice. Like I said before, it really makes you connect with the Stormtroopers, and I kind of felt a lot of sympathy for them and empathy, because you kind of realise the hardships they go through from day to day, and it's kind of more like the whole point. Back to my point on the terrorists: are they really as bad as they're portrayed by George Lucas in the trilogy, or are they actually fighting for a cause that they've been indoctrinated to believe in? You could say. And I thought the story progression was really good as well, and a good story tone as well helped really build up that whole idea of feeling the sympathy for the Stormtroopers for me as well, and the whole thing of, are they fighting for themselves, or are they fighting for the greater good in their mind? To rid the rebels of to rid the galaxy of the so-called rebel terrorists. That kind of thing. The nice kind of a nice perspective change.
Yeah, I must agree. I did, however, I did mention right at the beginning before we got into the film, is the ending. I thought the ending was terrible, in my opinion. So we just had a final fight. I forgot to mention that the bloody female trooper was killed off, and it like. Actually, let's start with the female trooper. TK533, I don't care. I'm going to call you female stormtrooper, who had a relationship develop with 423, the male stormtrooper, and it was a little bit of a hard-hitting moment when he turns, they defeat the rebels, or the rebels get away, and he turns back to see her down and not breathing. It was, it was a nice hard-hitting moment, but it didn't really add to much drama, because as an audience member you could see something like that coming. I mean, I would have liked it if there was a standoff between her, him, and maybe another rebel, the rebel general, as such. If there was a bit more to that, then I would have been like, oh shit, that's really peak, innit? That sounds so roadman when I said that.
Oh, so peak, innit?
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think just the way that she was killed off, like you said, it was a hard-hitting moment. I think as well, like I don't know if you mentioned it, like you've got that on your section, but the fact that it didn't like the main character's motivations, it was kind of thrown in there to add drama, I guess you could say, and that kind of, for me, I can agree with your point there. It just didn't work to my liking, and I 100% see where you're coming from.
What about the ending for you? When he then meets Rico. The Stormtrooper meets Rico, and he recognizes him when they were like little or young. What did you think of that? I mean, you can agree with me or disagree with me. It's completely up to you.
I'm going to disagree with you on this because I know you've said it as a negative. I thought it was all right because I thought it tied nicely in with the whole thing of stormtroopers aren't, mindless clones like the Republic had. They're individual people, and I think the whole aim of the Empire is to get rid of people's individuality, and I think by including perhaps the memory of that guy and how he remembers Rico, was kind of forcing him to confront his past, if you like, and a very sensitive throwback, I could call it perhaps. And I think it really builds the character of TK423 because you can tell that stormtroopers aren't just emotionless, I should say. Non-feeling beings. They of course have their own minds and their own actions and things, but I just thought it was nice. But I can agree with you slightly on the contrary, saying that I would have liked something a little bit different, but I thought it would have been placed better further back in the film, if you like, perhaps towards the middle, going into the end sequence arc, perhaps.
Yeah, actually, if this was in the middle, maybe like they take the general and then they have to run away to escape the planet, and then the stormtroopers have to chase after them.
Yeah,
and the whole final fight that may have been better. I don't know. Maybe they could have played around, but yeah. See, I'm gonna disagree. You phrased that so well. Like, it's a very hard point to argue, about how stormtroopers, how they have to recite their memory and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the rebel soldier was the one who kind of said, "Hey, I remember you," kind of way. But you can kind of tell this is not, the stormtroopers have not forgotten their memory, because the female and the male stormtrooper were kind of connecting when they were walking to take the prisoner. So like, you can't, like, in terms of what the film was trying to show, it outside the context of when the Empire is wiping their memory, it doesn't really fit in, because if they wipe their memory, then then their dialogue when they were taking the prisoner would not be about, oh, hey, do you remember that time when we went out for clubs or pubs or whatever? Because they wouldn't remember that. They would kind of brainwash their memory. That's my only problem, because they didn't establish that in the film. Maybe they didn't have enough time because they felt the character development between the female and the male trooper was more important. But I just thought the ending was very weak, and it could have just been a bit stronger.
Yeah.
For me. Is there anything else you want to add before we conclude?
I mean, it's a very picky point, but I felt that I'll just briefly summarise it. But I found when they're inside the Imperial shuttle and it's all shaking and things like that, and it's going into crash landing, I felt it was more like a theme park ride.
I actually remember you saying that. Did you describe it was like what ride would you describe?
I'm going to say one of those virtual rides where you've got the headsets on, you're holding on to like the bars over you. I feel like it's more like that, and it didn't feel like a sci-fi movie. It just felt very artificial and very Earth-like, which is very poorly phrased, but it's anyway. I can't think of just phrasing it really. But for me, it just as weak as it sounds, it's a very picky point, but I just felt that kind of let it down a little bit. For me, I don't know what you think of that.
Yeah, I would agree to this. That it did feel like, I don't know, you kind of like, oh shit, the whole thing's gonna collapse. Maybe they could have stopped the padding. Maybe it just had the camera shaking, not actually physically shaking the fucking walls. I don't know.
Yeah.
you know. But it wasn't the end of the world, I must say.
No, it was a minor thing, and again, it's down to
Yeah,
preference, you know. So
yeah. Okay, I think this is a good time to conclude. You know, I think I'll kick off with my votes. Let's start with a TK3. I keep getting the numbers. TK436. After watching it a second time, I liked it more. And I'm not gonna say, you know, I'm gonna judge from first viewing, because then that's not really that fair. Um, I think it's decent. Again, it's a lot of could ifs. Could this have been better? I'm gonna give it a solid 6.5, 6.5. It's not really worthy of a 7, I don't think, but it's not really worthy of a 6. I think it's decent though. I think people should watch this, because you can see why it won best like Star Wars fan film, which I really enjoy. And then going to Bucketheads, yeah, I thought very solid story, very unique again. I liked the perspective they chose, and then the story they developed. The ending was very whack, I must say, which means shit for those who are not familiar with English slang or UK slang in it, bruv. One. But yeah, like I'm gonna give it an 8, solid 8. Yeah, if they sorted out that ending, it would have been higher, but 8 would do it for me. Over to you, bud.
So, I think I'm going to go Bucketheads first, seeing as it's on my notes right now. I'm going to give Bucketheads an 8.5, pretty close to a 9. But for me, it was an 8.5 because, I mean, basic enough it is. My positives 100% outweigh my negatives, clearly. The only reason I'd lower it is because I said, although we didn't actually mention it, I did think one of the costume designs was quite poor for one of the rebel officers. I just didn't appeal to me. As minor as it is, that wasn't a
very
thing for
picky.
me.
Very picky.
I think as well the major one though, like we mentioned, the last negative, when the shuttle landing, and I felt it was more like a theme park ride, because that's like one of the opening scenes. That's key to capturing the audience. I just feel like it didn't appeal to me. Like I said, as I explained previously.
So that's in. Sorry to cut in, but just quickly, that's interesting. So you hate the beginning, but like the middle and the end. I like the beginning, middle, but I hate the end. So kind of evens up, doesn't it?
Exactly. That, and I just felt it was very jumpy, the film overall. But I think for positives, like as I've said before, but the main one for me was just the different perspective, as I mentioned before and explained. Just the whole idea of, are the rebels the good guys, and are the Empire really as evil as they are perceived to be in George Lucas's films? And I think for I'm going to get this one right. TK436, a Stormtrooper story. I'm going to give that a 5. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to finish with that, I think it's not high up on the list for me. It's not a particular favourite. Again, my negatives definitely outweigh my positives. I just think it was more, the effects were too overwhelming for me. As I said before, you know, with one shot had multiple elements in, and it wasn't clear what the director wanted you to take in. The pace for me, it was very slow, and there was a lack of character development. The flashback was too often recurring of him and his girlfriend, and I just felt the costume design for me, particularly in the flashback, was very Earth-like and not on an alien planet. So that for me just felt like it didn't belong. And then just to highlight a couple of positives, I thought the flashbacks were well included. As I said, it was a powerful moment with him and his girlfriend, and you could really connect with him emotionally. And the ending was good because it showed the clear indoctrination of the Empire and its influence over its soldiers, if you like. But that's all I've got to say for that, really. I definitely 100%. Bucketheads is definitely, I would say, third on the list for for me.
Wow. Nice. That's good, man. A little bit harsh on TK, I think, but maybe if Will watches it another time, he might change his view.
Perhaps, yeah.
Perhaps. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Of course, we'll be reviewing another 2, or we might be doing something different. We might add in a little bonus episode for superhero movies. So I might get Will to feature on that. Of course, that'll be a really nice to do, since next week is the last week of superhero movies. It's been good for its time. But obviously, you can check up all our podcasts on the AM Filmmaking Podcast. That doesn't even make bloody sense. You could check up on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Just type in the AM Filmmaking Podcast and you should be able to find it. This is very easy to find. And yeah, of course, thank you very much, Will, for coming in and doing this again. He's got his YouTube channel down in the description. It's called Humanities Reimagined. He still needs to upload. But he does have a lot of A-level PowerPoints that is very useful. So, of course, go and check him out. Go and check them out. See if it's worthy of your interest. So, be sure to give this, if you are on my Spotify, give it a nice follow, stream it as much as you can, and if you're on YouTube, of course, give it a like down below. Okay, that'll be it, guys. See you all next week.